All right, so today we're finally getting into the fun part of this engine removal. We got some straps to be able to support our engine and our transmission. We also got these links that help us be able to basically hold all of this together. Both of these items are from Amazon. They were highly rated. So these links is rated to just a little under 3 tons. And each strap in their current basket configuration, meaning, you know, they go under and back over an item, are rated at about 4 tons. So I'd venture to say we have enough support and enough strength to be able to get this engine up. On the right hand side of the car, the strap goes down here, you know, making sure not to cause any kind of problems with any of the items in the intake manifold. It goes down here right next to the oil filter housing area, and we go under. And so under here, it's going to be supported on the oil pan. Hopefully it doesn't really do anything to the oil pan. I mean, some people have literally placed the engine on the ground with the oil pan on the bottom, so hopefully this isn't a problem. And then it goes up this way and then next to the exhaust manifold. And you can see like this this anchor right here is kind of helping preventing this strap from, you know, kind of slipping off to the side. On the left hand side, we know we're going to be hugging the transmission housing. So we're going here in between one of these mounts and the sump. And you can see it goes on and through to the back of the transmission. And it kind of hugs the back of the transmission. So you kind of have to wiggle it in through the back right here. And then it comes up here and goes back into one of these links. So when you're doing this side, it's, you know, it's just really easy just to tie it to one of these links and then push it down. And then once it comes out from the bottom, you just pick it up and get it through this way. I will list the Amazon links for these specific straps and links. I know on Instagram it doesn't really allow you to post links, but I'll post them anyways. This will actually be on my YouTube as well, so you can just go to my YouTube and then click on the links through there. But yeah, it's just a little overview of that. So the first thing we're gonna do now is start unbolting the subframe. With the car finally supported with the engine hoist and the straps, we are now going to start removing all of these bracing end bars. And as you can see, we removed one of the mounts with the support bar. And yeah, so there it is. Now the engine hoist is kind of picking up this whole assembly. So this is kind of lifted a little bit. So now we know that we have some pretty good support on the engine. So these first parts that we removed was this crossbar and these three bolts, the 12 millimeters, and then the bigger cross member. So, you know, just undo the bolt for one of the mounts, one of the engine mounts, and then the some of these bigger bolts for the rest of the bar. All right, back into the car. So now we're gonna try to remove the subframe. So the major bolts to remove it are 19 millimeter, and there's one. There's the other. We'll undo those little by little, and then eventually we'll get to the front ones. There is also this rear mount kind of hidden in the back of the engine bay, but we need to remove this before we actually can take the subframe completely off the car. And then after removing that rear bolt for that rear mount, you kind of shake the engine a little bit. So now we know we got some pretty good support with these straps and this engine hoist. All right, and now with the subframe, and then little by little, we'll undo the bolts. That way it comes down a lot easier, and we'll have a jack, so then we can slowly let down our subframe. And once you're lowering the subframe, just make sure that this joint is loose and we verified. So now I think we're pretty good to lower the whole subframe. And just like that, we're able to get the subframe out with the steering rack and the sway bar. So once the engine is supported and the cross member is removed, really it's just, you know, the 4 bolts at each corner, making sure the joint for the steering rack here that goes up into the cabin is disconnected, and then making sure this mount is off as well from the engine. Of course, you know, the other things that we kind of mentioned in the wheel well and in the engine bay, like tie rod ends, the sway bar, and the power steering hoses. But with an engine hoist, straps, and some tools and a jack, this is very doable. Now for the actual engine, transmission, and transfer case, here's the plan. So once we get this whole assembly off of the mounts, we're gonna lower it all. And what we're gonna do is undo the transfer case first. We're going to bring this back up, and then we'll mount it again to the mounting points. Then we'll move the strap off of the SST transmission and onto the engine. And then we will lower it again, undo the bolts to the SST, and then we'll finally be able to pick up just the 4B11 by itself up through the engine bay. Doing it this way is because I don't feel like we have enough clearance to get the transmission and the engine cleared through the engine bay. But I am going to try to kind of wiggle it a little bit and see if we do have some space, just to test. And if we don't, then we'll just stick to our original plan. Yeah, it would have been pretty difficult to take this out from the top all like this in one assembly. But yeah, we'll get it lowered and get the transfer case removed and kind of like what I was talking about and continue on. But looks like we got some pretty good support, and our load leveler is doing a great job. So, and voila, we're able to pull our transfer case from our assembly. As you can see, it's still kind of being supported. To make this process easy, there's going to be like a heat shield right here. You're going to want to remove it. It's basically this one. It's being held down by 3 10mm screws. So first remove that, and then there's going to be 6 bolts to remove. As you can see, there's 2 of them here in the housing. It's going to be on the top. And then there's going to be this super long one. Don't forget this one. That's why it's kind of important to remove this this shield. Makes it a lot easier to get in here, or should I say possible. On the bottom side, there is 3 more bolts. So this one is basically going in this way, and then the other 2 are going in the opposite direction from this side of the transfer case. It does help a lot to have one of these longer flex socket wrenches. As for getting into these top bolts, it'll just, if you're trying to remove this with, you know, your turbo and your exhaust still on, this will make the job a whole lot easier. Of course, just make sure that, you know, you're supporting the transfer case. It's pretty heavy, it's dense, and yeah, just make sure it's being supported with the jack or something else, just to make sure you don't, you know, cause any kind of damage to the splines in here. Okay, now that we have the transfer case removed and we have the transmission and the engine back on the mounts, as you can see, moving one of our straps to be only on the engine, because now we're going to be removing the SST, and we'll eventually drag that out and yeah, and then pull the engine from the top of the engine bay. Now we have that one strap on the complete engine side, so it won't really interfere with the SST. And then we just make sure the strap isn't causing any kind of pressure on any kind of lines. I think that will be okay. It's more on the oil pan and basically the block, so I think we'll be good here. All right, so I kind of wanted to do a little shortcut, but I think what I decided to do is just to keep the SST on, but I'm gonna be moving the hoist 90 degrees, kind of, doesn't fit all the way, and just basically take it all out in one piece, which I get a lot of help from the load leveler, so I can adjust this to make this tilt and tilt it back as if it were like an LS or something. And now I can just keep tilting it, and the straps seem to be pretty secure. And yeah, so now just little by little I move it and just kind of tilt it little by little, and now I can just make sure, you know, it clears in the spots that it needs to clear in. And yeah, and so now I'm gonna just try to pick it up like this. Then so after maneuvering it a little bit and using the load leveler to make sure we could get this out from that tilted angle, we're basically able to get this engine out through the top. You can see it's pretty much cleared, so now it's just getting fully out. And just like that, we have our 4B11 and our SST out of our engine bay. Definitely was worth maneuvering and being a little patient to just take out this assembly together instead of, you know, having to drop the transmission on the floor. I think yeah, I think it saves quite a bit of time. But yeah, I definitely recommend these straps and these links. They make this a lot more comfortable for me. Safety is the biggest thing for me, so I just want to make sure I'm good and you know, nothing's falling on me. So far everything's holding up pretty well. I never mentioned the engine hoist that I got. So it's just a Strongway. This is from Northern Tools. This one is a 2-ton, and you know it comes with the low leveler. So I think it's done its job pretty well. Now we have an empty engine bay now, so we get into some of these parts that are pretty dirty and get these cleaned up pretty well. Just an FYI, you are going to cause some damage to some of these plastic parts, like here. This plastic cover for where the windshield wipers are at. Yeah, the chain was pretty much just grinding on this, so I mean, this is gonna happen unless, you know, you can push it out of the way or put some foam in the way. Probably my recommendation. And then the only kind of damage it did to the engine was really right here where the alternator is, and so yeah, just be careful. So now it's time that we remove the SST from the 4B11. The way that we're gonna approach this, because we have this assembly dangling from the hoist, is we're going to lower this down to where the transmission kind of sits on the arm of the hoist, as well as our 3-ton jack. That way we get a little bit of balance while we bring this down and try to unbolt it from our engine. That way it's not dangling and, you know, just kind of being annoying. Okay, so I removed the bolts and I got the SST off of the engine. You're gonna be taking off 10 bolts, but you want to make sure you remember the orientation and where the bolts go, because if you see, some of these are shorter than the others. So just make a reference point or take note of where these bolts need to go when the SST is gonna go back in the engine. Yeah, this thing's a beast. It's freaking heavy. It doesn't hurt to have somebody to help you out, or, you know, maybe use some extra straps to get around this. But I was able to tilt the engine and just, you know, carefully pry this off. I did use a pry bar, but if you do that, just make sure you're not, you know, going crazy with it. You know, you're doing it calmly and you're not scratching the surface too much. We got the engine out. We separated it from the SST. Now it's time to get this on the engine mount tool so we can start taking this apart and getting a look inside of our engine. And now we're able to get our rotating engine mount onto our engine. So it was kind of finicky to try to figure out how we were gonna mount this on here. First had to lower our assembly and then basically move this bolt and this arm from the 1 1/4 ton to the 1 1/8 ton. This allowed us some more room for our actual rotating engine mount. Then we picked up some bolts that are probably about almost 4 inches long that have the M10 by 1.25 threading that matches the threading for this side of the engine. It's a little off center, but once you get a chance to support it completely on this rotating engine mount, I'm going to adjust the straps up here and then get this more centered. That's pretty much how the process goes. That'll be it for this video. So thanks for watching, and until the next one.